Smoke. OVS. Old Virginia Smoke.
This podcast is brought to you by the Kansas City BBQ Store, the official provider of barbecue supplies to listeners of Pitmaster. And you don't want to miss out on this discount from the Kansas City BBQ Store. From smokers and fuel to rubs and sauces, the Kansas City BBQ Store has everything and anything you could possibly want. Make the Kansas City BBQ Store your one-stop shop for all your outdoor cooking needs. As a listener of the OVS Pitmaster podcast, you can get 10% off of your order this spring by using the code PITPOD, P-I-T-P-O-D, all caps, for online orders at www.thekansascitybarbecustore.com. All right, welcome to another edition of Pitmaster and Old Virginia Smoke podcast. My name is Luke Darnell, and I will apologize for my rustic look today as, I kind of thought it was fitting. I'm here with Chris Webb from Bushmasters. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, brother.
So I just got done filming, and I haven't done this in a long time, but I'm dedicated to doing it. A YouTube video.
Okay.
It's exhausting.
I have friends that do it. I don't know how they do it, man.
It's exhausting, and hopefully it's out. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take to edit it, but I made coq au vin, French dish, but I made it on a Santa Maria on a Weber.
Yeah. All right. Go.
I am gassed, man. I'm bushed, and here we are talking.
So what's the play? Do you try to do one full shot, or how do you? What's your move? I've seen it a few ways.
So I got the camera in the right position, and I just kind of went through the steps and just record little pieces through the process. I think the days of like 30-minute YouTube videos are done.
Put them small, a bite, and keep moving, right?
Yeah, so that's what I tried to do. It's been a couple years since I've done one, and I forgot how much work it was, and my legs are killing me. Freaking lawnmowers going off and shit. I'm like, God, why am I trying to do this? But anyway, welcome to the show, man. It's been about time I had you on, right? So you've been cooking a lot, huh?
Yeah, I've been trying. I felt like I kind of honestly was behind from a cook's quantity standpoint initially, because I was signed up, for Lakeland, for example. I wanted to go to Bullhead City in Arizona in January, and then had a business venture that took a little bit longer maybe to get started than what I hoped for.
Yeah.
I would already be open in Kansas City, that location there with Proud Souls BBQ and provisions there, which I'm the COO of that company. So that kind of got it, just delayed it, right? So business first, you gotta get the doors open so we can go have the fun. And, got it open in January, but still had some training stuff that we needed to get implemented out there. So I was kind of over there a lot, if you will.
Yeah,
missed those, and then really didn't start cooking until maybe mid February, early March. So
right on. Well, you've been doing great, man. You even came out my neck of the woods out here.
I didn't see you. I didn't see Bill. I was like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, it was funny. It was an open weekend, and they had this contest in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and my golf trip with my high school buddies was the week after that weekend in Pinehurst.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I really wanted to go to the double in Jamestown and support Dave Dick. He's a great friend of mine, and
great job, man.
Yeah, and John Wade, also, Optimus Swine, those are all great guys. I really wanted to go there and support David Dick and John Wade, and those guys are great guys.
Yeah, 100%. I had met Dave in Alabama last year, I guess it would be, in the KCBS World Invitational. Never met John Wade, but it was funny, outside of him being a great cook and just a great advocate, right, of our sport. I'm sure you heard, but the weather out in Jamestown settlement wasn't the best, especially day two. So everybody is trying to get out of there, and he's got this huge rig, right? This big, crazy truck, and so he's pulling like campers out, trucks out, I will say I was a little surprised at how many two-wheel drive pickup trucks got exposed that weekend in Virginia. But yeah, great contest, and they did an awesome job.
Yeah, and I was never more pleased to be cooking on an airport tarmac than that weekend.
Yes, sir, I would agree, man. I was jealous for sure.
So you've been at this a while, and you've been successful for a while. How does that, when you start, I mean, I'm assuming you're running points.
This year, yeah.
Yeah, how does that feed into your confidence level in putting yourself in that race?
Yeah, great question. I really think cooking, it's funny, going back, talking about the East Coast, my first contest ever was actually in New York. A lot of folks don't know that. I wasn't cooking it under Bushmaster BBQ. It was just kind of a drunken rampage with an old buddy of mine who I'd met when I was stationed at West Point, New York. So there was one back in the day called Hudson Valley Rib Fest.
Yeah.
In New Paltz, New York. And I think I cooked that one. I was still active duty military at the time. 2011 was the year I want to say it was. Went out there. We cooked under got pork, got beer. And we had pork. We had a lot of beer. We had no success. And so then honestly, I never really cooked again until, honestly, probably roughly 2018. I might have done, a handful, 5 or 6 in between. But 2018 is kind of when my dad actually really started. So, but mentioning a confidence boost and stuff like that, I think I had a good cook last year at the American Royal. That whole time frame, maybe from August of 2022 until current, I've been cooking really, really well. So I think I took that momentum right from 22 and kind of applied it to 2023, which is kind of where you're seeing me sitting right now with what I would consider at this point in the year a limited amount of cooks. I think I'm sitting, including the KCBS Invitational, and Open last year, which honestly I didn't really do well. But and this year I think I'm sitting at maybe 12 contests.
Right on. The Hudson Valley Rib Fest. I called it the Hudson Valley Fly Fest.
Yes, great analogy. Yeah, I would totally agree.
When you sign in and they give you 2 fly swatters as your team gift, yeah, that's telling.
Yeah, but that's really where I cut my teeth and just kind of honestly saw the folks, back then that were having success. I mean, talking about smoking hogs, obviously the guy's an animal, right? In my opinion, he's kind of like I would equate him to like a Kelly Wirtz type figure, but on that Northeast, super awesome people. It was him back then. It was another team. I'm trying to think who was always getting their name called Ribs Within. They were really good.
Oh yeah.
There was a few other guys, Big Guns Barbecue, Sean Keever.
Man, you're bringing up some old school East Coast bangers, buddy, man.
Yes, sir.
Big Guns Keever. He pissed off my wife's aunt so bad at the Rock City Rib Fest one day. She's like, "You got to say something to him." I'm like, "No, absolutely not."
He likes his bourbon for sure.
Yeah, and he's the nicest guy in the world. He didn't do anything wrong. But
right.
There's a guy I should have on here too, just to bring it back old school.
I would agree, man. He's a solid dude. He's still up there in the heart of the Hudson Valley too. Not compete as much. He's went on a restaurant venture right now. So I wish him all the success in the world.
Absolutely. I still think he comes out to the Royal every year though.
He does, man. He does. And I saw him last year. I always see him every year at the Royal. And they're set up because he sets up with Smoke on Wheels, kind of just to the north side of where we typically set up. And coincidentally enough, Andy Groneman is the pitmaster of Smoke on Wheels. His wife Kim is actually our general manager at Proud Souls BBQ, Kansas City. So, and that was just a connection I had taken from knowing Sean back in those, the 2011 to 12 era. I was fortunate enough to meet Andy, which kind of really developed that friendship and now partnership. So,
wow, that's fantastic, dude. You're connected all the way around.
We're trying, man.
Well, we know how great Bushmasters can be, but one of my favorite things to do on here is talk about failures. Do you have a favorite failure of yours during a contest that you've really set you up for success later?
Yes, sir, I sure do. Fresh off. It was actually, I like to travel coast to coast. I think that's fun. Geographically speaking, in Colorado, we don't have a ton of cook teams, and which equates to not a lot of contests. So I always try to do something fun. Like this year, as we mentioned earlier, going to Virginia, that was awesome. I was in Yuma, Arizona earlier, maybe a month prior to that. But last year, I want to say I went to Bullhead City. Mm-hmm. I went from there to Santa Barbara and just kind of hung out on that West Coast for a little bit, and then circled back maybe a month or two later up in the San Bernardino Valley area. So I cook alone, but I have a really, really good friend. I'm not going to say his name, who lives in Texas, and I kind of mentored him maybe from 2018 to 2021. He starts cooking, whatever, but he always wants to hang out. We're great friends, right? So if I can fly somebody out and get them exposed to what I'm doing at this point in time, it's almost like a built-in class. We hang out, we party, hopefully win some stuff. Awesome. So this guy comes out, and it's injection time, right? It's Friday night, whatever. So my back is to my friend, and I'm like, hey, I inject in a particular order, like I'm sure we all do. My order happens to be ribs first, then pork, and I do brisket last. Okay. I start injecting roughly around 5:30, typically right after a coach meeting. And so he knows the drill. We've done this very, very, very many times. I'm like, hey man, you know the drill. Ribs, boom. Hands it to me. Shame on me. He's taking the caps off. I'm injecting. Boom, boom, boom. So I go through. I'm doing my thing. And I get to brisket, and I call out brisket. I said, hey, all right, man, let's go, brisket. And there's a pause. I don't like it. And I'm like, brisket, bro, and nothing's getting handed. I don't see a jar. And I turn around. I'm like, where's the goddamn brisket,
Yeah.
And he just puts his head down. Looks like, when your puppy just takes a dump in the house, right? And all he had left was, forget what it was, pork or rib, whatever. So anyway, long story short, I had injected, I put 32 ounces of brisket injection, into 3 racks of ribs. Blew them up. I'm loving it, right? I'm getting excited. I'm seeing it looks like little hot dogs, right? I'm loving it. I'm like, and I was on a really good rib run for a little while back then. And so, and I'm just in panic mode. And I didn't care about the flavor, right? Whatever. I'll turn in a savory rib. It's okay. It could taste like, whatever. But I knew the amount of phosphates that I had in that brisket injection. And I literally just start giving these ribs CPR, right? So I'm just pumping these. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. You would have thought I was like, what was that movie, Sandlot? Whenever they thought Squints or whatever had died and he's drowned, so they're trying to pump him to get all this liquid out. That was my ribs. And so I get them out. I turn my water hose on because at this point, I'll be honest, I think I was cooking out of a 10 by 10 for this one. And I turn the water hose on. I'm just trying to get stuff off. And then me being in panic mode, I found out where the rib injection was, right? Because I have it in my hand, and I start pumping those. And I'm
no.
Because it made sense at the time, right? Because we had a couple pops and having a good time. And then I really realized what I did. I said, holy shit. I just double phosphated these bad boys. And needless to say, I played it off. I'm like, we'll be fine. It's all good, But in the back of my mind, I'm sweating. And sure enough, I think we definitely walked high in the other 3 categories. No rib call, obviously. And then whenever I went to get my score sheet, it was a yellow ticket fest. It looked like Tommy Strip Club. They were just flying. Yeah, that would be my biggest takeaway is control what you control. We're all professionals here. We're all anal a lot. Trust your process. Don't trust someone else. So that was on me. I take full responsibility. We had a nice sit down after that. So
It was a long drive back from San Bernardino to Denver for sure.
That might win the award for best story about. But the
caveat to that, Luke, is people ask the obvious question: so are you guys still friends? And yes, we are.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when I tell Kim when she takes the box, I'm like, look, if you're late or you drop it or something, it's fine. We will stay married. We'll be great. Just don't come back to the trailer. I'll know something's wrong, and just don't come back, and I'll get over it.
Yep. Maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Man, that's so. What you've done this for a few years now, and you obviously started a successful business. What's the most surprising thing to come out of competition barbecue for you?
Ooh. Great question. Yeah. I think. For me, I think that the common answer, right, is the friendships or relationships you build, which is freaking awesome. Yeah, totally agree. But I think for me, it's really the ability to go in, week out, and put yourself out there. I think that for me is what it is. Having that, we'll call it personal courage, maybe to get in that. To get in your truck and go drive and know that I might go drive 2,000 miles round trip, and I might sit on my hands, if it's double both days or whatever, and just really it forces you to really focus and hone your craft. And it was funny. I was out in North Carolina a couple weeks ago at Kannapolis, one of the best contests I've cooked. Head nod to Eddie out there, but it was almost funny because I just came off a pretty decent cook in Virginia the week before, kind of did a rolling double, if you will, week to week, and then showed up there, and then some folks came by, just spectators, if you will, and I'm on my porch, I'm setting my drums and stuff, and I cook on gateways, and they were like, Colorado. And I'm like, yeah, yes, sir. So I kind of give him, I'm from Alabama. I can talk the talk, I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, all you boys out there know how to smoke is that weed. And he goes, you even know how to cook barbecue? I said, hang around tomorrow. I said, I bet you'll find out. And but just being able to have that, poking fun and just the confidence to go show up against guys like you or the old school guys or even the new guys now that are just honestly really kind of taking fire. So for me, I think that's what it is, just learning a lot about yourself and just kind of that personal, courage or confidence that I think then translates to other areas of your life. So, but yeah, for me, that's what it is it really lets you know a lot about you.
That's a great answer too, man. I tell people all the time, and when I teach classes especially, you aren't going to know what kind of barbecue cook you are until you go cook 4 weekends in a row. You're going to find out about yourself. You're going to find out about your pits. You're going to find out a lot about life and a lot about happiness and disappointment.
Yes, sir.
In that 1 month.
Yeah, 100%. And just like you said, I mean, in a 4-week run, I mean, you're going to win all 4. I know I'm not, but, learning how to lick your wounds, put it in your head, put it right back out, man. And that's it. And start over and just a lot of resiliency for sure in that aspect of barbecue, which isn't what we see on social media. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's just post the wins. I feel like I always see wins, but post the loss. I mean, that's when you really figured it out. So.
Yeah. And, making the tweaks, but making small tweaks and figuring out, I think it's the number one thing I teach. That's the only way you're going to get better at competition barbecue is reps and dealing with it.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, 100%.
This podcast is brought to you by BarbecueData.com. BarbecueData.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to BarbecueData.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, Pit Pod. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on barbecuedata.com. So you just mentioned you cooked on gateways.
Yes, sir.
What's the best or most worthwhile investment that you've made in competition barbecue?
Oh, man. I would say gateways, obviously, game changer. But for me, it was a trailer. That was the best $30,000 I ever. Literally. So for those of you guys that don't know, I cooked out of a tent from 2018 until November of like 6 months ago. And I'll tell you what, once I got that trailer, because people are like, get a trailer. And I'm like, oh, I don't cook enough to quantify a trailer. You know, I like my 10 by 10, 10 by 15, but it was a nice one. But I bought a few of them, right, over the years. I mean, you know how it is, one bad wind and, that thing folds up like a pretzel. But now it's like, I sit here and see the guys that like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, why did I not do this 5 years ago? That for me has been a game changer. Just taking the elements out of the equation. I mean, obviously I still cook on my porch, whatever, but being able to shut that door, I'm not trying to worry about if my ratchet strap's gonna go, or I got a cooler here and a kettlebell holding this one. And for me, that was the best investment. And I'm like, I couldn't believe that I was doing as good as it was under the stupid tent that I was so loyal to, But that, for me, that is my big purchase, if you will, best investment ever.
Man, can I tell you, well, it won't be a secret after I say it, but I really love cooking out of a pop-up now. I love it.
I'm not going back. You can have them. I'll send you my pop-up. It's one I love. I mean, it's definitely the best. But yeah, you can have it.
The 10 by 15, that's what we used as well. It was the best size. It could fit in any spot. Gave you plenty of room. You could get it done.
Yeah, I 100% agree, but I will say I'm good, man. I'll stay around.
My wife hates pop-up cooking. I made her do it in D.C. last year, and she was like, never again. And I'm like, come on, this is fun. No.
I'm good.
All right, so that was the big expenses. This is my favorite question. You have tools that are $100 or less that have really upped your game, stuff that people can use?
Yes, sir. I've got a bunch of cheap tools that I love.
Bring it. Let's go.
One, a good pair of tweezers, right? I'm a tweezer guy. Love the tweezers. Two, in no particular order, scissors. I'm a shun scissor guy. I love them. Three, quart-sized bags with 1 pound of rice in each bag. So that's what I use to weigh down my greenery. Because a quart-sized bag on the inside is the exact same size as the box, so it keeps I use kale, but it keeps my kale. I like my kale low.
Wait a minute, do you keep them from contest to contest?
The same bags that goes into my superstitions. I've had the same bags I bet for 4 years.
Jesus, your superstitions one's going to be long too, isn't it? That's amazing.
That's huge. And then grease traps for your drain, like what you would have in your home sink.
Yeah.
So like, the very, very fine mesh ones that you'll see in maybe restaurants and stuff like that. That's the same diameter as my fat separators. So on my brisket specifically, I triple strain my au jus because I do cook A9s, and the new A9 cooks are like, it's gamey. It's not gamey. But if you triple strain it, and I use those little grease traps to wire mesh, almost like you're straining sauce, but finer. Get a 3-packet, the dollar store for definitely under $1. But those tools for me, outside of a thermopen, which is now over $100, but those are what I really, really lean on, and I couldn't.
There you go, folks. That's the end of the podcast. That was enough right there. What are you drinking on there, by the way?
I got I'm a tequila guy for those that know me, but yeah, a little Código 1530 Blanco.
Wow. I'm not allowed to have that stuff.
What are you drinking on?
I have, I made Coco Van, as we So I had half a bottle of red wine, so that's what I drank.
Let's go. It's still looking pearly white, man. I love it. I know.
Trying, baby, trying. Man, awesome answer for the tools. That's the stuff that I think people really can take away from this, and like little tricks and tips, man. You know that. That's what makes people successful at barbecue. Even if it doesn't mean shit, it makes you feel like that it does mean something, and that gives you confidence.
Yes, sir.
So you're a drum guy. I'm going to ask this question, and you're not allowed to answer one name. But who has impacted your life the most in competition barbecue?
I'm not allowed to say one name?
You're not allowed to say Brad.
No.
Okay, good.
No. So Brad has educated me a lot this year on, as far as points, which is probably totally lacking. But, damn.
I'm just messing, by the way, too.
I'll say this, and it's a name that maybe you know, maybe you don't. But one of my business partners, Tony Roberts, he is definitely my biggest. He helped me really in the early days, right? Because as you know, the more success you get now, the more exposure you get, the more exposure you get, the more knowledge you get, right?
Yeah.
Different perspective. But if I was to pick one person collectively in barbecue who's helped me the most, it would be Tony Roberts, who cooks under Proud Souls BBQ.
Nice.
He really took me from, if you recall earlier, cooking 3, 4, 5 times from maybe 2011 to 2017. And then now that I had the opportunity and I wasn't in the military anymore, so I had the time, and I think I always kind of had the intuition, the cook's intuition, but really taking me from that guy that's cooked competitively 6 times in 6 years to he really got my foot in the door in barbecue. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
That's an awesome answer. In terms of successful, what's the first name that pops in competition barbecue?
Fred Robles by far.
Wow. Yeah. Freddie's
I think for him, I lived in Texas for a little while, and I cooked a couple of IBCAs. This was before he started the CBA. But I looked at that guy, and I was like, man, at that point, now you have Phil Breeden, you have Bill Purvis, guys Lee Hickle, Aaron Leslie that can go and win an IBCA, CBA, an outlaw contest, and then go cook the next day and be right there. If not win it, be in the mix. Out there with us in KCBS. And I really think that's always impressed me immensely, how guys can cook to different tenderness levels. They can cook half birds. They can cook, falling apart briskets for the CBA. But then they can beat us in our own game in our backyard. So for me, he would be, in my opinion, the guy that does it better than anyone, in my opinion.
He's amazing. He's also, I love that guy. I have a story to tell on Freddie, but I'm going to save that for a later podcast. It was so much fun seeing him in Memphis. And, yeah. Anyway, that's a great story. He got second place with brisket down there, but he didn't like it.
Of course.
In the beef category, he cooked the brisket, so.
Of course, yeah.
So let's bring in Fred Robles to cook brisket for the beef category. Come on. That's cheating. Yes. Anyway. All right, man, let's get into it. Habits, rituals, superstitions, routines.
Oh, man. So routine-wise, I so many people are like, on Tuesday, I do this. On Wednesday, I get to it when I get to it, The only thing I don't do is I don't trim chicken on Sunday, which I think is not a ritual. That's just common sense. But I trim everything. Like this morning, I got in to work around probably 7 or so, and I just started pumping out briskets. I'm just trimming. I love freezing meat. I know a lot of guys, I trim this day. I got stuff going on. I think we all do. I'm not afraid to take a brisket and trim it. I think I trimmed today just 2 briskets, but tomorrow I'm going to go knock out 40 thighs. And I only cook 8 thighs per contest, so I'm going to cook 5 contests worth of chicken, or trim 5 contests worth of chicken tomorrow. And I'll hold it, and I'll just pull it the next 5 weeks. So
Really? You don't worry about it?
I don't worry about it one bit. Could care less. So that's just one more thing for me that now I'm not sweating it. I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. So I don't mind it, and I just pull it out. Let's just say typically I'm 8 hours from anywhere. It's kind of what I tell people. So I'll pull it out. I usually leave on a Thursday morning, and I'll pull it out Wednesday night, put it in my fridge, and then I'll transfer it to a cooler. And by the time I get 8 to 10 hours down the road, I should be somewhat thawed. So, but that would be it. As far as is any kind of superstitions, man, I think I'm pretty good on that. I try to take away all the guessing games. I don't overthink stuff. I don't think. But I'm very, very specific once the cook process starts. But, I also have dimensions of meat. I have weights of meat. Brisket's probably what I focus on the most, or what I think actually matters, just for the way I cook barbecue. And that's basically, I cook A9, 6. I go from 6 3/4 wide because they don't blow up, they blow out. Mm-hmm. And then I go 9 inches long, which fits. I do use caddies, so they fit in there perfectly. I know that I'm only getting probably 6 to 8 slices out of that brisket anyway, and they're all going to die. So that's the only thing, and my weight is always 4.25 pounds, plus or minus.
Wow.
A few ounces. But yeah, that's the one thing that I'm just, if it's not that, we're not doing it. But outside of that, anything weird, I'm not like Jordan Kirkpatrick, which I'm not lighting candles in here. but yes. So to answer that, it's probably a boring answer, but I'm not that guy.
Well, I kind of think you're full of shit. You already mentioned the rice bags, and they've had the same ones.
Yeah. But have you tried to buy plastic bags lately?
Yeah.
That's who I need a sponsorship from, is like Hefty or Glad. Trash bags, aluminum pans. That's what I want. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody's knocked down that door yet.
Hey.
Oh, man. Listen to music while you cook?
I do, and it does trend throughout the morning. So the first song that I listen to every single morning, as soon as I get up at 5 a.m., Easy Like Sunday Morning, man. Just really brushing the old chompers, lighting some pits, and for me, it just kind of really sets that in. And then I listen to some like Red Dirt Country, a lot of Jason Boland, a lot of Cody Jinks. And then usually around 9:30, things are starting to move. So then Katy Perry pops in, maybe a little Tay-Tay. and then typically during turn-ins, it gets, you think I'm from East St. Louis, it gets pretty ratchet down here. So I shut the door, and just kind of do my thing. But that's typically the progression.
See, whenever I get into East St. Louis mode, that's when I open the door. It's part of my psychological warfare that I like to engage in. And I don't do a lot of messing with people, but playing the rap music loud when we get into like an 11 o'clock hour, and just knowing that 90% of my audience hates that, like, I'm good. I'm good with it.
So my psychological warfare, my psyops, is I get loud in my trailer, and when I do that, it's obviously staged. It's all in fun. It's not in serious, and I'll just yell like my favorites, like, don't even turn it in, just, stuff like that. But I think now they figured it out, whatever. Or during turn-ins when I'm walking, because I walk my own boxes all by myself. So, and people like, everybody, good luck. Why people try to fist bump you when you have a box in 2 hands is beyond me. But, I always make a comment about how spectacular everything is. It's totally a 163. But it's just all in good fun.
You know what, man? I'd much rather have that than how some people are like, oh, worst cook of my life. And then they GC, and they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like,
come on.
Yeah, you knew.
Let's just have fun with it. That's my whole deal. Let's just have fun.
Oh, that's refreshing, dude. Man, we're gonna have to hang out more.
Let's do it. That was clutch.
Yeah, the ESPN ringer. Yeah, I didn't turn the phone on. That's perfect. So what do you think? This is an interesting question because you've been doing this since 2011, real hard since 2018. Where do you think this hobby's going? Where do you think we're headed?
Good question, man. I'm not the Debbie Downer guy that's going to say barbecues in a state of demise and stuff. But I think I look at it maybe from a different angle than a lot of folks, because I think so many of our friends and stuff in this industry, right, or this sport, if you will, see one side of it. They see competition barbecue. Of course, we're losing teams, we're losing contests. Not good. But what are we doing on the other end to fix it? You know, let's not identify a problem without identifying a solution. And I think it goes back to, you know, what Brad's doing with the barbecue league is huge, man. I mean, it puts people in the ballpark, whether you know what you're doing or not. I mean, you can watch a couple of videos and you'll be somewhere in the mix, you know, and I think, you know, back when I started, especially back when you started, I mean, it was like, that was kind of the issue, right? Was I didn't have much money. You know, I was in the military. I don't know if you guys know, but they don't really pay well, at least back then. Not enough to really sustain the sport, you know, barbecue is my point. But, you know, an easy $100 to get a year's long subscription to the league is huge. And then in my business and many businesses like mine at Proud Souls, we just try to really cater to that backyard cook, you know. Are all my friends comp cooks? 100%. Do I have a ton of just great friends and advocates of barbecue that could care less about it? Awesome. But I think that's what we need to focus on is stores, business models, friendships, forums, right? If you go back to the old barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, geez. I mean, the cool part is you can still go back on there and look at comments and crazy stuff that people were saying back then. But I think that's what it really is about, is kind of reconnecting with the guy in his backyard, and how can we bring them up to kind of see the same vision and same passion as what we do. So I think that's where we need to focus our attention, and I think if we do that now is pivotal point. But yeah, or maybe we go to contests almost like King of the Smoker, where you pay one entry fee, your meat's provided, because let's be real, the economy is not really helping our hobby. So, but I think that's it, and putting everybody on a level playing field and see who can do the best.
I think I'm with you. I'm an optimist right now. I think, especially out here, you're seeing a lot of guys go from backyard to pro, and they're having great success.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
And I think huge thing.
So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, so where I'm at, backyard's not really a thing. You know what I mean? It just wasn't an option. You know, maybe I would have went that route, or in New York and Nebs or whatever. But I tell you this, my first real exposure to backyard, sanctioned barbecue outside of the KCBS Invitational, which is, those guys go crazy. I mean, they got bigger trucks, better trucks. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Really? You know? But my point is whenever I was out on the East Coast, and that's huge out there, and I met some freaking awesome dudes, because myself and Richard Fergola went out kind of traveling together, and we were kind of sandwiched, you know, in between these backyard guys. And, dude, they know what they're doing, man. And whether you choose to stay there for the rest of your life or you want to just do it for 3 or 4 or 5 times, or make the jump, right, whatever that means now, to pro. But as you mentioned, look at Dave Dick. I mean, that dude's a savage. Hickory and Hickory Hangover. I mean, they are freaking excellent cooks. Optimus Prime, he was backyard for a while, and then dude, don't sleep on the backyard.
And I tell them the only difference is that I spend more money. You guys could beat me any day of the week in chicken and ribs.
Me too.
And they're great, and I just love seeing more of them come up and seeing them get success. That's the key. And you're right about the league. It's leveled the playing field, and it's given people an access point to where they think they can compete, and that's a good thing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I teach so many backyard basics or backyard classes. It's awesome. And I think the biggest
So last weekend I cooked out and just down the street, honestly, 30 minutes from my house in Castle Rock, Colorado. And so many great teams were there, and I finished 5th. Janky won, Brad went 2, and a couple like local teams, semi-local from out here went 3, 4. But the coolest thing for me that weekend, obviously I was trying to I'm trying to get that 7. I'm at 6 now. I didn't get it. But what was awesome is near one of our stores in Littleton, Colorado, School of the Blind. Okay, one of the best, honestly, nationally renowned schools out there. There's a gentleman who has a passion for barbecue. He's legally blind. He is an advocate of my store. He comes in, he buys 48 gallons of Blues Hog every day. I'm like, what are you doing with this stuff? And he hit me up and he goes, dude, I want to cook the American Royal. And I said, cool. He goes, will you help me? I said, well, I ain't going to help you cook it, but you can cook it. I'll help you get there. And he goes, bet. And I said, yeah, man, we'll get you there. We'll get you smokers. I'll help you out, whatever. You can set up next to, our squad, whatever. And if I can help somebody achieve that dream, awesome. But I said, before you cook the American Royal, man, let's get you in a local contest. He went down there. His name's Shane Howard. His team name is Blind But Limitless, but with 2 B's, right? Awesome. He goes down there. He cooks his first contest. 4 meats, whatever. He did everything. I had one person, someone was so nice to offer, actually, Fergie's sister, who lives in Denver. She ran his boxes. There was, I think, 37 teams. Dude finished 32nd. 32nd. I mean, to me, that's incredible. And
absolutely.
And dude living his best life, like loving it, like, dude. And I think that's what's funny about barbecue is, I was all poopy faces. I got 5th. I had a 695, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I look over, dude's like hugging everybody. And I said, you know what? This is it, right? This is what it's about. And that was, to me, that was so cool.
Man, that's awesome. If he's coming to the Royal, I want you to take me to meet him. I think that'd be cool.
He'll be right next to me. I can promise you that.
I can't wait to do that, man. We'll have him on here. We'll have him on the podcast. That would be awesome.
It's worth the conversation.
Awesome, man. Well, let's hit these rapid fire questions before we get you out of here. I feel like I asked you half the questions, which is awesome because it means I can have you back on. So that's cool. What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
Man. Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing as everybody else, I think the keyboard cooks, whatever. It's happened to me before. Like, I cooked Lubbock a few years ago, actually 2018, right? My first kind of coming out years, whatever. And I think I finished 2nd or 3rd in brisket, right? And I didn't even have social media back then. A gentleman who was helping me out, he did, he was kind of walking boxes and doing stuff. But he posted, the photo, how guys do, like, here's chicken, here's ribs, here's pork, here's brisket. And he's like, yeah, 2nd place brisket or whatever. And, you got it wasn't the best brisket. It tasted really well, but it didn't look the part. The Texas part, right? It was like 7 slices, which is Texas, but it was, man, I sauced the shit out of it. It was excellent, right? And the guy had like reposted it or something and was kind of like dogging it. And the funny thing is, you wouldn't know the guy's name then. You definitely wouldn't know it now. But it was just the fact that, like, this is what barbecue is, sauce on sauce. Whatever. Look, man, I don't know what I'm doing, bro. But just people like that just kind of, do I see things when I'm strolling or you do? Yes. Do I look at the result and equate it to the picture always? It's in my mind, but I'm never going to be that guy. Like, good on that dude. Did I hit a good table that day? Probably. Does it really matter? Who cares, man?
Yep.
One contest we should, and we've all lost contests we should. But for you to take it upon yourself that you're the end all be all and what what your voice says matters. Buddy, you're wrong. So that's what bothers me is just seeing people. Let's kind of uplift folks and give positive
feedback as opposed to negative criticism. So for me, on social media, it drives me crazy.
Gotcha. Well, social media drives me crazy in general.
And if I see it, and a couple more of these Blancos, I'm probably sliding in your DMs, and I'm going to tell you you're wrong. So, but you don't want that.
Do you have a favorite pre, during, or post-competition meal?
Yes, sir. I'm a hot dog guy. So, mentioning traveling all the time, anything I can get off a roller, a torpedo, definitely a hot dog. But yeah, all beef, right? Hot dog off the roller. Typically, like a Flying J's, man, I'm after it, dude. That's me. I'm only going to have it for breakfast.
That's fantastic. Do you have a favorite present that you like to give to people?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I do. Honestly, anything barbecue. Like my mom, she's now, I'm not going to say her age, but she's past retirement age. And I bought her, when she retired, I bought her a pellet grill. So I sent her, she got that, and she's sniffing around. Her birthday's in April, so she was sniffing around. She's like, in my Alabama accent, y'all got any more of them cans? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I want one of them drums. And I'm like, yeah, I got you. And then she's like, I don't want a new one. But she's only about 5'2" or 5'3". So I said, I can't get her the 55,
No, get her the little one.
Right? So I bought her a little 30-gallon, a little flat gray Gateway, and I sent it to her, and loved it. I'm like, you didn't like your pellet? She's like, it was cool, but it's boring, So I'm like, all right. So I sent her that 30-gallon can, and then for Mother's Day, right, a couple weeks ago. So they live in Daphne, Alabama, which is only 30 minutes from the butcher shop. So
yeah,
I called my boy Kevin. I said, hey man, Mom wants to do her first brisket. I was like, but she doesn't need a Monster 22 A9. I said, but she needs an A9. She wants to do what I do. And so he had trimmed one up, or had one of his guys, probably Eldon, down there trimming it up, and beautiful brisket. And they sent it to her. And, if you've ever bought from them and it says always hand-picked, and it says always hand-picked for Bushmaster's mom, got a great kick out of that. She knocked it out of the park, man. So, yeah, I said she might be my new brisket, my brisket hitman. I might just fly her in, fly her out, right? Just the food to me is honestly is something us as cooks and as passionate people, that if I can help you kind of do what we do on a day-to-day basis, man, I'd love it.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. That's great. All right, last question. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting a message out to millions, what would it say and why?
Do the little things. That's it. Do the little things. Maybe ... And I think that's what I do. That's what we do. And I don't care if it's in, my family life, if it's in a business application, if it's in cooks, if it's in competition barbecue, or just being a good friend. I think people remember the little things, and not just, but, in that aspect, but judges remember the little things, right?
Yeah.
It took that time to really fix this or fix that, make it look presented well. We all have 5 choices in life, right? In my opinion, I've said this for a long, long time, and we all have the option. You can be bad, you can be average, you can be good, you can be excellent, or you can be elite. But guess what? A lot of us will get by on skill or whatever it is, or just natural born talent, but that'll only probably get to average. To go from excellent, or from good to excellent elite, guess what it is? It's the little stuff. And I don't care if that's being a businessman. I don't care if that's being the best cook on the freaking planet. But life's about 1,000 little things, and how good you can do those. If you do those positive actions, I guarantee you're not going to suck.
Man, that's great advice, man. Thanks a lot for being on here, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a blast, dude.
Tell people where they can find you and where they can find Proud Souls out there on the internet.
Awesome. Yeah, man. You can find me on Facebook at Chris Webb. I really don't do a lot with Bushmaster BBQ on Facebook. I'm very active on Bushmaster BBQ on Instagram. I just now figured out that if I post to Instagram, it just kind of goes right to Chris Webb. So that's cool. That's how savvy I am. And then definitely find our business, man. Proud Souls BBQ, Proud Souls BBQ KC. We have 2 locations in Colorado, 1 now in Kansas City. Things are well.
well, we'd be happy to help you. We have a great team. My boy, Richard Fagola, kind of runs all of our social media. So if you do hit me up via Proud Souls BBQ or Proud Souls BBQ KC, you're talking. So talk shit to him. But yeah, slide in, man, hit me up. If there's anything I can do to help you guys, I would honestly, it would be a huge compliment to me, and I'd be happy to answer any question.
Awesome, man. Well, I look forward to seeing you out there.
Likewise, brother.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with all your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC. All rights reserved.
Old Virginia Smoke.